Today I'll be reacting to 8 American habits that confused me as a Brit. Well, friends, I really wonder what those are. But before we go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. It's the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description, and let's play it.
Thanks. Just put it on my knee. Yeah.
Oh, I am
Hello,
one, of
I'm
course.
Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all
Hello,
of the
Lawrence.
memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And
I
one
know.
of those memos pertains to habits, specifically
Habits.
American habits that confuse
That's a beautiful word. Habits. Sounds like hobbit, but it's a beautiful word.
me when I first moved to the United States. And I'm not talking about things like picking your nose, because I think we all do that. Most of you do that, I think, is what I've heard. I'm talking about habits that seem to be culturally ingrained in America and
Like
not so
what?
much in Britain. One such habit is that Americans tend to be more direct. And so in the interest of assimilation, I'm going to do likewise. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now.
I am, my friends. Do it for me, actually.
In the meantime, here are 8 American habits that confuse me as a Brit. All right, so I was already prepared for this one just because, you know, we watch a lot of American films back in Britain. But when my new American relatives and or friends started calling me things like buddy and pal, there was
And they also use mate.
a weird novelty to it. I can't really explain it. It's like how I've said before, you know, how I always thought yellow school buses were simply a trope of American
So beautiful, my friends. This is one of the things that may get me emotional when I see one.
films.
Actually, at one point I thought all buzzes in America are yellow. I guess I'm wrong.
Before, you know, how I always thought yellow school buses were simply a trope of American films. To some degree, you start thinking that about everything, and words like buddy and pal fell into that category. Growing up in Britain, where the equivalent word is mate, it took some getting used to, and I also noticed that
Wait, Americans don't say mate? I swear to God that I thought that's how Texan people talk. Howdy, hey mate. No, wait, no.
just like with the word mate, both buddy and pal can be used in an affectionate way and a not so affectionate way. An example would be if an American hasn't seen you in a long time, they might say, hey buddy, what's up? Because, you know, they think I'm a dog. On the other hand,
Okay, so no American ever said, howdy mates? No? Wait, what about, hey y'all mates? Oh, that sounded bad. Yeah, mate is not an American word, because you guys may not be aware, but there is English and there is American. I speak bad both, but I'm more into American.
if you took their car seat, they'll look at you with that steely expression on their face and say, I called shotgun, buddy. And, you know, this happens all the time. It could mean that I'm just an asshole. It's probably that. Now, I can't say that
Someone says to me, I call shotgun, I run to my country again.
this goes for all immigrants that move to the United States, but one thing that I've experienced a lot is Americans saying, I love your accent. Did you order that online? It is a common question that I get from people. You know, ooh, you sound just like the Geico Gecko. Could I just put you in the corner and have you speak to me all day? And yes,
Okay, so I have to be honest here. Not as British people, I assume, because the British accent is actually quite nice. But some people, from time to time, they say they like my accent. They also say that I remember the Count from Sesame Street.
those are real things that have been said to me, but, you know, in some ways it's good because it's an icebreaker. I'm an introvert. I don't want to just, you know, think of things to say. And so if they want me to say words like water, tomato, and banana, it's an easy enough paycheck.
Oh, those are, yeah, I'm American here. Water, potato, wait, what was the words actually? Water, tomato, potato, banana.
Want me to say words like
I say it like an American, I feel like.
water, tomato, and banana. It's an easy enough
Water, potato, banana. It's easy.
paycheck, they get a good giggle out of it, and I never have to see them again. Coffee is a huge thing over here, and of course they drink it in cups that are as big as this one right here, because not only do pound for pound Americans drink more coffee than British people, they also drink them, on the whole, in bigger cups. Now, I never used to drink coffee, that is, when I was in Britain, so I didn't previously have a point of comparison between the coffee cups in this country and those in Britain. But you know, a few years ago, the wife and I went to Paris. And then we went to England just recently, and it dawned on me, the cups over there, on the whole, are smaller. The default that they will give you for just a latte are like there. You know, they're
Everything is smaller in my friends.
small. In some
Not every. No, never mind.
ways, that's good because it sort of promotes responsible caffeine intake. On the other, when I was in Britain, instead of just ordering one small coffee like that, I'd get 3 of them. That's why I was jet lagged the whole time. I've just realised that. And you might say, well, that's not really to do with American habits. That's just what's on offer. But even I, now, as an American citizen, do have the habit of just ordering a grande. And I think the real habit that Americans do more
Yo, this is massive, right? This is the extra large.
than Europeans is taking this with you on the go, through the park, a little saunter around the shopping mall, which is probably where you bought this. And I think that
See, these type of things, at least in my city, I don't see people, with coffee going around. But when you see American TV shows and stuff like that, seems like a common thing.
even though Britain is starting to catch up in terms of its coffee culture, there's still quite a wide difference between the coffee drinking habits of the two peoples. And the part of me that really loves my convenience likes to walk down the street with a coffee in my hand. But on the other, I don't like to give in to this societal pressure of always needing to be busy and on the go. So I mostly just drink it in the bath. Americans have this big habit of using the word right in ways that other people don't. And I'm not just talking about politics, I'm talking about the way in which it's used in sentences. First of all, there is this thing Americans do when they want to show agreement with another person, where they say, I know, right? Or they might
Yeah, that's an American expression for sure.
just abbreviate that question/sentence to just right. And it's sort of infectious. It's the sort of thing that, in my early days in the US, I found myself saying again and again and again, until I remember that I'm a bit of a contrarian, and since everybody else was doing it, I had to stop doing it. But there's another use of the word right that I think I've also been guilty of, where they'll use it almost like an interjection. So for example, my management team might say something like, Lawrence is the next big thing, right? He's smart, he's talented, he's the third sexiest man alive. And while statistically a third of that is true, the important part here is that my management team remembered to stick the word right in there so that you wouldn't stop listening. On the other hand, it's
Okay, I'm a bit lost here. Okay.
hours and not miles. That's right. In Britain, if we talk about the distance from point A to point B, we'll typically say it's a certain amount of miles, as opposed to kilometers. But this is not a conversation about
My friends, kilometers is much better. Let's all agree here.
imperial versus metric. This is merely me giving the British perspective so that I can contrast it with the fact that a lot of the time, Americans, when they tell me how long it takes to get from, say, Chicago to Indianapolis, it isn't a couple
You know what's crazy? Nowadays, kilometers to miles, I'm still a bit new there. But when it comes to Celsius to Fahrenheit, now I know the conversion because I've been reacting to so much stuff that Fahrenheit appears all the time that I learned it.
couple of 100 miles, it's 6 hours. That's because we often stop at the dog park. Maybe this is a result of the fact that Americans drive longer distances, and so they need to know that time, because sometimes you can drive so long in the US that you actually need to stop for the night and, book a motel. The time becomes more important, I suppose, to a potential commute. I still prefer to go by the bigger number, which is the distance, and therefore is more impressive to me, but to each his own. I didn't know whether to put this one in for a while, and then I thought about it and realized that there's actually many different facets to this particular entry, and that entry is this. Americans will use parking lots as death traps. Now, I have a caveat here. This is by no means all Americans. It's very specific ones. When I worked in the call center, I used to get a ride from someone who lived in the local area. And one day, it had been snowing really bad outside, and she decided, hey, British person with your naive ways, have you ever done a 360-degree skid in a car park? Although she wouldn't have said
With snow?
car park. And I thought she was joking. It'd been a long day of people yelling at us until she did it just there in the partially empty parking lot, and we span around. I thought I was about to die and or be deported, and she was laughing
Wait. Anyone ever did this watching, my friends? Please tell me in the comments. I read most of the comments.
Head off. At first I thought this was an isolated incident until some teenagers started drifting, as it's known, in the car park to my local school. You might say, oh Lawrence, great, you've cherry
Wait, the buzz also does that drifting from time to time?
picked a part of your memory bank to make it seem as if things like this happen all the time. They don't, but parking lots are a place in which I've seen differences in people's awareness of other cars. In Britain, and this may have changed in the smartphone era, if you're walking into one of the big stores from a car park, you're usually hyper aware of any cars that may be behind you trying to get out. So you walk at the side right up against any cars here, and you do so at a speed that is slightly above walking pace. In America, those people on foot are not always in such a rush. Like, you could be in your car trying to drive this way and there's like two people walking really slowly there and they don't care. It's not been bred into Americans to care. I talked a few weeks ago about the British tendency to want to save the face of other people, to not put them out. This is a generalization, it's not true of everyone, but it does exist nonetheless. Americans don't necessarily have...
My friends, here you guys can tell me. I have no idea if this is true. I trust him, but tell me your experience. I mean, at the end of the day, you are the American one.
That approach to society. And I think this is perfectly embodied by their approach to exiting a parking lot. Here's a habit that... Sorry. Here's a habit that I feel like I've picked up since being here. Americans, if they have access to vacation days, which is not always a given, will take those vacation days, but still occasionally work on those vacation
Oh, it's a bad idea.
Days, even if it's just a light email or two. And I feel like when I was in England recently, I told myself, no work, no way, Jose. I'm just going to go and enjoy the countryside and a plate of fish and chips and come home. I did do some filming and I had 3 plates of fish and chips to make up for it. But this tendency among some American workers with whom I've worked was quite jarring. I think in Britain, where we are given, I think it's what, 28 days of paid leave a year.
Yeah, it's similar here. We say amount, basically.
We value that time.
I believe it's a bit less, but with the weekends, it's basically an amount.
We value our holidays. We see the importance of rejuvenation, and that importance isn't just toward your physical well-being, it also improves your job performance. And so this American habit of working beyond regular hours is one that's born out of a society where it's almost shameful not to work hard, to put in the hours, to go above and beyond just to get that promotion. I got burned
To be fair, my friends, I also feel this, that Americans are quite more competitive than Europeans. But on the other hand, it's the number 1 country in the world, so there is pros and cons with that, right?
out doing that at the call center, partly because I had to deal with people, but partly because
I honestly believe if you want to be rich, if that's your goal in life, America is probably the best place. I honestly believe that, my friends, because so many opportunities. If you work hard, I still believe you can become, go to that goal of becoming rich. In Europe, it's a bit more difficult, even if you work hard. Not saying it's impossible, but on the other hand, if you want a more relaxed type of life, I never went to America, but from what I see, I would agree, at least for now. Maybe when I go to America, I change the perspective, but I think Europe is a bit better there.
just didn't have a life. So when I took vacation time at that company or other companies, I really took that vacation time. It's only since I became a bona fide YouTube sensation that I found myself doing occasional work on holiday. I think it's easier when you love your job, but it doesn't mean that rest isn't important, which is why you should stay tuned until the end of this video to watch my take on why British and American sleep time is very different. And I put this one in because I didn't want this video to feel like it was a complete slam against America and American life. I don't feel particularly negative toward most of these habits, and this is especially true of this one, which is more of an anti-habit. It's about chewing gum. Now, when I think of chewing gum, I think of Americans for some reason.
No, we do it here a lot.
But I noticed something when I was in Britain, and it was this, that the pavements, or as they're known here, sidewalks, were pretty littered, especially in downtown areas, with chewing gum. It occurred to me at that moment that I hadn't really seen a chewing gum laden sidewalk on that level since I lived in Britain. This was a common sight, just walking down.
Oh, really? I thought about this was going to direction that you guys see a lot of this in America. Yeah, seeing this here is very common.
To me at that moment that I hadn't really seen a chewing gum laden sidewalk on that level since I lived in Britain. This was a common sight, just walking down a downtown street. In America, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, gum spitters are everywhere. But with the exception of occasional cracks in the sidewalk, they always seem to be a bit more clean than the ones in Britain. And so I've put this in here because I want to ask the question, is that because Americans have a good habit of not spitting out chewing gum as much as British people, or is it because they replaced the sidewalk every now and again? So those are just some of the habits that confused me when I first...
Okay, my friend, show him all the support, but what the hell is this title? 7 ways British and American sleep time is very different. 7 differences. How can that... Okay, my friends, actually leave me the number 9. No, number 7, because it's 7 differences. If I should watch this one. If you guys leave a lot of number 7s, I'm going to react to this one also because I'm actually kind of curious. That said, thank you so much for watching this with me, my friends. See you guys in the next one. Bye.